We're 12 episodes in, and it's finally time to talk about Nextage in the Road of Nextage.
Stand up! Vanguard!
If you don't know what I meant by the intro, it's the fact that Nextage skill has officially been revealed or in some shape or form leaked to us with the latest episode of Cardfight Vanguard, the reboot. And of course, every time that they reveal skills via the anime, there is still one or two things that will change once we get the actual card effect. So in this episode, I will go over the basics, what we know, and what type of inclinations that can have an impact for the clan. But it will only be a small portion, as we're most definitely and most likely are going to do a whole dedicated video on Nextage within the Road of Nextage, as well in a Cardfight update when the card is officially revealed, which my personal hunch is probably in the next reveal stream in the next Tuesday live stream. So that means we're going to talk about some other things on the main subject of this video, and that's our 3 new cards that were revealed for Gear Chronicle, with of course the main grade 2 of the trial deck for Stroboscope Dragon. But don't worry, we're still going to tackle Nextage at the end of the video, so stick around if you're interested in what Nextage has in store for us. So we're going to start off with some generic support cards that we got for Gear Chronicle. And we start off with this common grade 1 from the set, as that is Team Writer Lubaba. And Lubaba's ability is Auto Rearguard Circle. When it boosts, if your Vanguard is grade 4, draw a card and discard a card from your hand. So this is a very simple basic ability. I'm honestly not very excited about this card. It doesn't really do as much, as it's just a cycle card, which is free. But the problem is, it's way too slow, as it can only activate the moment you write into your grade 3, and you can then do your superior write abilities. And that means it doesn't help with the early game consistency of your deck, as it does nothing in your grade 1 turn, it does nothing in grade 2 turn, and it does nothing in your normal grade 3 turn if it so happens to be that you can't activate the superior write ability because you either cannot pay the cost, or it happens that you're not sitting on something like Lost Legend, Chrono Fang, and Chrono Jet. So on overall glance, I'm not really super excited about this. The only upside to this card ability is the fact that it synergizes with discard cards like Chrono Tigar, as well as the new Mazer Gear Dragon, and maybe with new support on the horizon, this could be better with a specific build in mind. But we're going to address that in a moment, as it will cover the following card as well. As next up, we have another new grade 2, which is once again a waifu card for Gear Chronicle, as we have Steam Breaker Narmaniha. And her ability is Auto Rearguard Circle. When it attacks, discard 1 or more cards with the sum of their grade being 3 or greater from your hand, and this unit gets power plus 15k until the end of turn. So once again, a discard effect, but instead of we draw something new or we get some extra resources, this one is just a generic power buff. In most cases, you can get the power for a -1, as you can discard grade 3s, you can discard grade 4s, but you can also discard your cards that will count as grade 3s, like Wedge Move Drago Kid, or Il Kaboo, or the brand new Chrono Jet grade 1. But that won't always be the case, so it could be that you're discarding 2 cards to get an increase of 15k, and even by minusing 1, I don't think getting a 15k increase is that great. Sure, you can combine it with those specific discard abilities, but the problem is that the current discard effects that we got are grade 1s, meaning you need to discard another card to activate this ability, and that's not really that great. So I'm not very excited about this specific card. It does synergize with Chrono Fang in the fact that you can hard minus your hand to activate the full potential. But then again, that means you're attacking with your rearguard first, where you rather want to attack with your Vanguard first, so you can give your rearguards the extra 10k power, and you will get the effect of the minus shield on all your attacks. With Narmaniha, it doesn't really work that way, so it's still not that great. And yet again, we're going to talk about the discard synergies that we also have with the grade 1 Lubaba, but before that, we're going to tackle the brand new grade 2 of the Chrono Jet trial deck, as they all have a similar story that will address them all in one single go. Otherwise, I'm going to repeat myself multiple times throughout the video. Because The next card again has a discard synergy, as we have the brand new main grade 2 that is supposed to be a grade 2 version of Chronojet Dragon, as that is Stroboscope Dragon. And its ability is auto on Vanguard to Vanguard Circle. At the end of the battle it attacked, cost Soul plus 1 and discard a card from your hand. So once again we're discarding cards. Choose one of your opponent's rear guards, retire it, and if your Vanguard is grade 4, draw a card. So this card allows you to get spot removal, but unlike Rebellion, you can target the back row as well, so you have way more options to clear the field. And in the early game, it's basically you trade a card from your hand for a remove of your opponent's field. Depending on what you're removing from your opponent's field and what you're discarding, the trade-off could be a actual good thing. The only downside is that you're also paying a soul, so it needs to be a good trade to equal everything out. And if you're just trading equally in the discard and the retire, you're actually minusing yourself in value as you're also paying a soul blast. But with that said, you could discard specific cards that then interact with your discard ability, like Chrono Tooth Tigar or Mesa Gear Dragon, which then get you even more value. Only with Mesa Gear Dragon, you immediately empty out your entire soul. You do retire 2 rear guards, but you don't have any soul left, which could be a problem for the following turns. But in the late game, you actually get to draw back, so you're just soul blasting 1 to retire. Then it's actually a pretty damn good card. But in the early game, it's alright depending on the situation, but it's good against aggro decks. It's good against something like Aquaforce or Narukami, where you just can remove their oppressive early aggro rush turns against you, and you get actual value out of the card. As the good thing about this is, it doesn't need to attack the Vanguard, so you could attack into a rear guard, potentially they don't guard it, so it will get retired, and then you can activate this ability to retire something else, so you effectively destroy 2 units onto your opponent's field for 1 single attack. And to be fair, spot remove or just control over overall is pretty nice in a force deck, as it means you have some way to interact with your opponent's field besides wasting a precious attack onto a rearguard unit, so it allows you to do some extra plays. And with Rebellion, this is actually pretty nice, as it means you get even more spot removal, as Rebellion retires the 2 front row units, and then if you have this thing in the side columns, you can then remove something in the back row as well, so your opponent has some real problems with filling out the field once again, with the additional pressure you're dealing out with crits, extra power, and the minus 5k shield on all your units. So overall, I think this is a pretty solid card, but it's too early to assume if this will have a place in the upcoming Chronojet Dragon build, as you would assume it would have, as it's the main grade 2 of the Chronojet trial deck. But with the reveals we got so far, that's hard to say, and this is where I want to go into detail about these 3 specific cards, as we get more and more of these discard cards. And what we got right now, I'm not overly excited about that fact, as discarding for just power, or getting removal, or then cycling again, it's not really that great. It doesn't give a lot of value, and I don't like to discard for paying the cost of certain abilities, as minusing yourself in a game like Cardfight Vanguard is really problematic, especially if games tend to go longer. Then it means you're already in the back foot because you're minusing your hand, meaning it's easier for your opponent to punch or break through to your defenses. But with that said, as soon as we got cards like Chrono Tooth Tiger, as well as now with the new Mesa Gear Dragon that's also going to be in this set, there is a potential that we're going to get pretty good cards that synergize with the fact that when they're being discarded, you can activate their abilities. And I hope that we're going to see some pretty good effects. As we had in the leaks of the magazine, we saw a grade 2 that could synergize with being discarded, that your opponent can no longer guard with grade 2s and higher, but that's honestly a pretty trash card. As, what's the point of forcing your opponent that can no longer guard with grade 2s and higher if grade 2s and higher don't have any shield value? The grade 2s have 5k, and the grade 3s have 0, and the grade 4s also have 0, so that card most likely won't see any play. It's pretty bad, and it's also a grade 2, which is a pretty precious spot. So yeah, that's not a good card. I hope we're going to get something better, in the sense that we get something like a Mesa Gear Dragon that doesn't cost a Soul Blast, because Soul is pretty precious. I'd rather use Counter Blast in that fact. Or maybe something else that allows you to immediately draw something. Or if it's really insane, a card like Chrono Tooth Tiger that is recalls to the field, but standing. If we get one card that could restand itself when it's get discarded, then things change completely, as that means we're going to get multi-attack within Gear Chronicle. And it could be a thing. It could be that the Triple R Grade 2, that still has to be revealed, could have something like that. As there are some key cards that could be in that spot. As seen as Royal Paladin is going to get Suleiman, and they're hinting that they're going to get another Grade 2, which could be Knight of Twin Sword, which then sends to believe our Triple R or our main Grade 2s in this set could be Steam Fighter Ember, but we also could maybe get History Maker Dragon, as seen as we're going to get support beyond GBT5, which then makes History Maker Dragon a valid option. And the restand ability, so you can multi-attack with your rear guards, does synergize with what History Build Dragon was in the past. So maybe that could be a thing. I'm not sure if it will be a thing, but at least I want to see more powerful cards that interact with the fact that if they are discarded, you get more value out of that fact. As currently with all the cards that keep discarding, and it seems that it will also go into the Chronojet build, means Gear Chronicle is lacking some value in the shield department, as they're just minusing their hand for what seems to be small increments of power or abilities, which I honestly think might not be good enough to make them good. But with that said, let's talk about the big reveal that we got today, as the latest episode of the anime dropped, and within that episode we saw Chrono playing the Chronojet build and stride or superior ride into Chrono Dragon Nextage. And its ability is basically what we came to expect of the card. It's basically a V version of the old Nextage stride. So what the anime showed to us is, at the end of the battle that it attacked, you can discard 2 cards. That's basically the twin drive that you just acquired. You discard those 2 cards, you retire Nextage, and then you can rewrite a Chronojet Dragon from the soul as stand, and because you rewrite, you attain another additional force marker, which is pretty nice. But that unit also gains 15k power, and that is big, because that means your Chronojet Dragon will get an increase of plus 25k, and why I'm saying 25k is plus 15 plus the force marker. But if you also put the force marker of your original ride of that specific turn when you went into your grade 3, that means your Chronojet is already 48k. And then you can activate Chronojet Dragon's ability. When it attacks Counterblast 1, it gains an additional 5k power, and your opponent can no longer use PGs to guard against it. Which means you're effectively attacking with a 53k Vanguard attack, which has Twin Drive, and it can't PG. And don't forget, if you still have a booster behind it, it can also increase the attack. So with Nextage, currently, it looks to be, if you put the force marker onto your Vanguard circle the moment you ride into grade 3, you will have a 25k Vanguard attack with Twin Drive, and the following attack would potentially be a 53k Vanguard attack, which you can PG if you put the following force marker also on the Vanguard circle. And we're talking about Force 1, which is very obvious with this kind of ability. That's pretty strong, because in the anime, we haven't seen them using Counterblast for the Nextage skill, which in itself means the ability is completely free. You will get a free additional attack, as it seems right now, because the discard 2 is the Twin Drive you just acquired, so you're not minusing nothing. Yeah, you minus for the pseudo stride, but then again, that's not really that bad. So that's pretty damn good. But also it comes with some question, because the Nextage stride forces you to retire the Nextage and then rewrite the Chronojet Dragon from the soul, which you then acquire the gift, which is obviously a good interaction. But then at the end of the turn, we still had the Chronojet Dragon pseudo stride ability on standby that needs to be resolved. So you need to retire your grade 4, but that no longer is there, so you cannot fulfill that part of the skill. But just like Melon in Premium, it isn't the cost to fulfill the entire condition. So even though you cannot retire your main grade 4 anymore, you still then need to select a grade 3 from your soul and write it. But then there's a problem here, because if it's your first grade 3 turn, you most likely don't have a grade 3 in soul. So what happens then? Is the entire skill just fizzles out and it doesn't work because you cannot select a grade 3, but you still have a Vanguard because you rewritten the Chrono Jet Dragon from the soul thanks to Nextage ability. So you actually still have Vanguard. Because if you did this with the other grade 4s and you Soul Blast your grade 3 and you then need to resolve the ability, you retire your grade 4, you don't have a Vanguard at that point. So what the skill then states, you then select whatever unit from your soul and write that. But in this case, we still have Vanguard. We are Chrono Jet Dragon at this point because we rewritten that as a grade 3. So does the skill just fizzle out? And if so, what happens if you have rewritten your grade 3 Chrono Jet Dragon? Because in this case, we have a Chrono Jet Dragon grade 3 and we have a Chrono Jet Dragon in the soul or whatever grade 3 that's left in the soul. Once the skill's resolved, we can no longer retire a grade 4 because it's not there. But then we can still resolve, select a grade 3 from the soul and rewrite it. Will that still activate then? And will we then acquire a third gift that turn? That's an interesting query that then comes up because I don't think they thought about that specific interaction. And I hope that once they revealed Nextage officially, that they also answer that question. Personally, what I believe is the case that if you ridden Chrono Jet Dragon for the first turn, you have no grade 3 in your soul, the entire skill just fizzles out. You cannot rewrite another unit because there's no grade 3 in soul, but you still have a Vanguard because you're still on the grade 3 as you cannot retire your grade 4. But the following turn when you can rewrite another grade 3 and you activate the whole Nextage ability and then that skill will resolve, you cannot retire grade 4, but you can rewrite a grade 3 from soul, so you do that and get another force marker. That's what I think is gonna happen. But with that said, there are still some questions about this card, and that's why I don't want to go into full detail, as the condition of the skill isn't 100% set in stone. We only know that it is going to discard 2 cards. It could very possibly be that once they officially reveal the card, that they are gonna put an extra cost to it. That maybe it's a Counterblast 1, discard 2, or Counterblast Soul Blast 1, discard 2. That could possibly be a thing. They could also give the card another ability, as the upside to this card right now is the fact that it doesn't really need to be superior right for the skill. You can have the Chrono Dragon Nextage in your hand, write it on top of your Chrono Jet Dragon, and then still resolve the skill and go back to a grade 3. That's an actual good property of the card, as unlike most grade 4s, you rather don't want to write them from hand as you're then stuck on your grade 4 for the rest of the game. In this case, you're not. So it could be that Nextage will have a second ability that's similar to Metallica Phoenix, that you cannot normal write this card within any other means than just the superior write ability. But with that said, Chrono Dragon Nextage could also have another ability that could interact with the rest of your rearguards. Maybe it gets a continuous ability that interacts with your discard effects. Maybe it just gets generic power that wasn't shown in the anime. Or what could also be a thing is that this restand ability is restricted behind the effect that your opponent also need to be grade 3. We don't know the details. Currently, we only know what's shown in the anime, and what's shown in the anime is an insanely powerful card. But they could restrict the card in some capacity, so we have to wait and see what's gonna happen. I'm honestly very excited about the fact, but I'm gonna keep myself somewhat contained, as we don't know the official details just yet, which allows me to do another Road to Nextage about Nextage, which is always good news to me. Also, before we end this video, there is something that I want to clarify that's making its way through the different pages and social medias within Vanguard, and that's in the anime when Chrono drive checks with his Jet second attack, he drove check a draw trigger, which is the brand new draw trigger from the trial deck, which is Lucky Pot Dragon Kit. But in the anime, they showed it to have 20k shield. That's an animation error as far as I'm aware, because they did a Chrono Jet Dragon trial deck versus an Altmal trial deck fight video on the official Bushiroad YouTube channel, and within that video, they used that draw trigger, and that draw trigger in that video had 5k shield printed on the card. So yeah, probably an animation error. Don't get your hopes up that the new draw triggers suddenly have a 20k shield, because that would be insane. But who knows, maybe they purposely put the 5k shield in that specific YouTube video to throw us for a loop once the official cards are actually revealed or released within the trial deck. But that's about everything for this video. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of the new cards for Gear Chronicle and about the prospect of Nextage's insane ability, which we're going to dive in a little bit further once we get the official card reveal, as I didn't go over the combos in direction that we could with that card within Standard and Premium, because I want to wait until we get the official card reveal and we get the entire picture of the skill, as there are a lot of ideas floating through my head right now, but I don't want to come up with things that are impossible once something makes that not likely anymore because of some obscure restriction. So that's why I'm gonna wait a little bit until we got the official reveal. But as always, guys, this video has been brought to you by our lovely patrons over at patreon.com/Vanguard Insider. You guys are amazing. If you do want to support the channel or everything that's happening on the channel, then head over to patreon.com/Vanguard Insider and become a Patreon today. But with that said, I'm Mr. Time Leap, and I see you guys in the next one!